Welcome to another live episode of the Baseball Insiders. I'm Adam Weinrib along with Fansided's MLB Insider Robert Murray. The qualifying offer deadline has come and passed. The non-tender deadline still lays ahead of us. And the offseason is really only just beginning with the winter meetings a few weeks away. But the signings and trades are already trickling in. Robert's here to help me make sense of all of it. Robert, how you doing again, my man?
I'm great, man. I just saw I got retweeted by you, so we're buzzing over here. How are you doing?
Oh, did I do that on purpose? All right, let me
Must have been a
retweet that.
mistake.
Yeah, let me accident. I'm just gonna unhit. You can't unring that bell because I already got the compliment, but that was a total accident. No, just kidding. I will always retweet you onto my feed because you write good tweets, and as long as Twitter still exists, I'll keep retweeting you. The qualifying offer, the day came. Most did not accept. Qualifying offer is weird. Most people don't want it. It's kind of just a little technicality of baseball that means it's going to be harder for you to eventually sign a long-term deal because we're attaching draft pick compensation to you. And it's also a downgrade for most people who end up with it because you're like 1 year of control. I don't really want that. Couple of people took it. I guess let's start with the people who took it before we move on to surprises and deals that were negotiated that day and sort of as a result. Because I do see Peanut Butter and Jelly in the comments asking about Jock Pederson accepting the qualifying offer. The other accepted offer was Martín Pérez in Texas, which you predicted on the show. I think it might have been last episode, but certainly heard you say it in the past. Let's start with Jock quickly. I think attaching the offer to Pederson really wrecked any chance of that market expanding. So was that a surprise to you, or did you sort of see that one coming, especially once they extended the offer?
I did not see the Giants extending Pederson the qualifying offer. Like, that one caught me by surprise after it was revealed that they extended it to him. But after digging, it sounded like the Giants really prioritized bringing Pederson back as they really liked his left-handed bat in the lineup. And it sounded like if he would have turned it down, they would have still tried to bring him back on a different kind of a contract. But no surprise that he ended up taking it because 1 year for $19.65 million is a pretty significant raise for what he was making last year. And yeah, I think it's a smart move by Pederson. He can use this deal and try to have another really strong season to take into next year where he can try to cash in for the first time of his career.
And Pérez was sort of a guarantee from the start. After the all-star year he had and the way he fit in Texas, having him on a 1 year deal for $19.65 million, that's a fair assessment. You're not committing yourself to multiple years. And I also think it's safe to say, laugh at the Rangers all you want for putting that poison pill on Pérez and getting the deal accepted and the bluff called, but they wanted him back, and pretty confident he's not going to be the most high-profile name they add to the rotation this offseason.
No, you're exactly right. And Pérez, like, has been pretty adamant that he wanted to return to Texas. Like, he even said when I talked to him at the All-Star game this year that he preferred to stay in Texas, but they hadn't talked about a long-term extension, at least to that point. But it became pretty clear like the night before that Pérez was going to accept that qualifying offer, but he was still receiving interest from other teams. Like, as John Heyman reported, the Angels were firmly involved there before they ended up signing Tyler Anderson to a 3-year, $39 million contract, which I know we're going to get into in a little bit. But Pérez staying in Texas made all the sense in the world for both sides. He's really comfortable there. The team wanted him there. But this does not by any means take them out of the running for like a high-end starting pitcher. I still think a guy like Jacob deGrom or Carlos Rodon they're both firmly still in play here.
Yeah, and the more those players' markets clarify, the more the Rangers only make additional sense. Like, I see that as a really obvious next step. Why not? Let's talk about Tyler Anderson right now, because I think if you're looking for a surprise from qualifying offer day, there's sort of two big ones. One of them affects my team, and we'll get into it in a little bit, and as well as try to map out the next steps. But Tyler Anderson, I think, in the same way that Pérez, and maybe I'm wrong here, but the assumption being that Pérez would go back to Texas, I think a lot of people thought Anderson would go back to the Dodgers, not for the qualifying offer, but we sort of thought they would work out a 2-year deal, similar rate, slight AAV discount or something like that. Everybody enters that Dodgers pitching factory and dominates, so they know they can do it again, but Anderson was 15-5, worth over 4 WAR, an all-star season. I mean, not everybody who Mark Pryor works with turns into Tyler Anderson. Sometimes they become Andrew Heaney. They dominate for a little bit. They show flashes like they always have, and then they get hurt again. Like, it's not a guarantee you're getting a 4+ WAR all-star campaign when you import someone who's had an inconsistent resume. And I think a lot of people thought Anderson will stay. And then he agrees. He agrees just as quickly as everybody thought he would. And he goes right down the freeway to the Angels. So how did that materialize? And Anderson spoke out a little bit today saying other teams made him offers, but they all told him to wait. He didn't want to wait. The Dodgers maybe didn't have the substantial talks we thought they had. How did we get here to Anderson sort of bolting to the new look Angels rotation?
Yeah, with Anderson, he even said today that he wanted to sign right by the end of the qualifying offer deadline. And the Angels had the best offer out to him. And there were other teams who ended up offering him multi-year contracts. We aren't sure who those teams are quite yet. We're trying to figure that out. But the Angels were the team that stepped up and were most aggressive. And even then, 3 years for $39 million for Tyler Anderson, that's only about $5 million more than what Rafael Montero got. And I would take Anderson on that contract over Montero. I don't even know if I'd hesitate on that one. And I thought that was a really savvy move by the Angels. And the Angels aren't done yet. They're going to continue to try to add maybe a bat, maybe some depth pieces, some relievers. But pitching has been their priority now for the last 2 off seasons because they ended up signing Syndergaard and Michael Lorenzen last year. Both of them didn't work out for different reasons. So they're trying again this offseason. They were aggressive with Anderson. They identified him as a guy that they liked. And I think 3 years for $39 million is a pretty good value. And it could be indicative of what guys like Andrew Heaney and even a guy like what Jose Quintana might get too.
The comments that I'm seeing are coming up are perfect. It's basically, do you guys have access to the rundown today? Because you're asking exactly what I plan to already talk to Bert about. So stay tuned. Yeah. Your questions will be answered. These are all perfect. I like Anderson too. And I like him a lot more than some of the other options that are kind of tangibly, borderline. But what do you think the Dodgers do now? I think a lot of Dodgers fans have embraced this mentality that Mark Pryor could do no wrong. There's a laundry list of similar people who would probably be getting 1 year, $7 million deals elsewhere. Maybe the Dodgers sweeten the pot, give them a couple extra million, and then turn them into something special. Do you think they should just try to bargain hunt to fill the Anderson role, or upgrade the top of the rotation that isn't getting Walker Buehler back and is right now Julio Urias, Kershaw, and do you believe in Dustin May? There's not that much upside in the Dodgers rotation.
No, right now there is not that good. There's not a ton of high-end upside with that Dodgers rotation. And I think the Anderson deal and him going elsewhere could end up opening up a spot for one of those top arms. And I know Justin Verlander's been connected to the Dodgers pretty heavily publicly. And I absolutely can see that I think it just makes a whole lot of sense because the Dodgers, they've always been open to those short-term contracts that have a high AAV. They offered it to Bryce Harper all those years ago. They gave it to Trevor Bauer a couple of years ago too. And that obviously didn't work out. But with Bauer's contract off the books now and Anderson elsewhere, maybe they do that with Verlander. I still I've always wondered about the fit there with Jacob deGrom. But I think Verlander of the two would be more realistic. But I think the Dodgers have some room here to be pretty flexible if they wanted to be.
The Dodgers certainly did give Trevor Bauer the short-term high AAV deal, and then Trevor Bauer claimed that he invented that kind of deal. So congratulations to Trevor Bauer on inventing a type of contract that will be maybe utilized by Justin Verlander again this offseason. Hey, JV, if you do sign the rumored deal, make sure to call it a Bauer. Credit him.
Yeah, no comment on that one.
Don't do that. Do not do that.
No comment.
No, yeah, I will be the only one commenting there. Trevor Bauer used New Year's Day this year to tweet at me for those uninitiated. So we are not friends. Moving on. Let's move on quickly. The other big signing from qualifying offer day that directly affected my baseball team, Anthony Rizzo, back to the New York Yankees. I went back and forth on this before it happened about whether or not a Rizzo deal would be a precursor to Aaron Judge finding his next destination, or if Rizzo would follow in Judge's footsteps, whatever that destination may be. So I was a bit surprised that he turned down the qualifying offer and agreed to return to the Yankees basically in one fell swoop. 2 years, $40 million is the guarantee because there's a $6 million buyout on the third year. No player option, only a team option. And when Rizzo was asked why he did this, he said, I love being a Yankee. So much for that narrative that the fans booed all of the best players on the team out of town. But it's been unclear since then. And Hal Steinbrenner has commented too, sort of saying, obviously the Judge market extends beyond the New York Yankees, but Hal Steinbrenner came out and said, there's more where that came from. I've talked to Aaron. I don't think I'll be outbid. And obviously we'll all see what happens from here. No guarantees. But is signing Rizzo, as much as he wanted to downplay it, sort of a precursor to sweetening the pot for Aaron Judge, or are the two things just completely independent of each other?
I don't think it has. I don't think it moves the needle on Judge going back to the Yankees at all. Granted, to be fair, Judge and Rizzo, they are both very close. But at the end of the day, what it's going to take to sign Judge is the most money. It was proven when he turned down the contract that he did. Obviously, he didn't feel like that was indicative of his worth, but you're going to have to pony up to sign a guy like Aaron Judge. And yeah, like having one of his best friends in New York still, that's obviously it's not a bad thing. And the Yankees, their ownership has already gone out and said they will not be outbid for Aaron Judge, which I thought that was very interesting. I mean, that just adds more leverage into the Judge camp, and they can probably get a couple more $1 million out of that. So props to Paige Odell, who is Judge's agent. You're in a good position right now, man. You got the Yankees, you got the Giants, the Dodgers are obviously have been connected to him, and there's got to be some other teams in there, I would imagine. So he's in a position of power. He's a top free agent, and he's going to get a king's ransom. The contract, to me, is going to start with a 3. I don't know how far it's going to exceed 3 or $300 million, but I'm pretty confident we'll be above $300 million by the time it's all said and done.
Yeah, John Boy had a great tweet that was basically the Hal Steinbrenner statement saying, I won't be outbid, and translating it hey, can anybody out there please not make me pay for these words? Could you just hear this and be cool and don't start bidding up? Because, I mean, obviously, look, you got to be supremely confident in your ability to match any and all bids if you're saying, I will not be outbid, because the Yankees do not spend in rarefied air anymore. There are other teams that have the same amount of money as the Yankees. The Giants have fewer payroll restrictions. So if you're making that promise saying, I've talked to Aaron one-on-one, I won't be outbid, I can do Rizzo, I can do other things too, I've told Aaron this, then you better be able to deliver, because the bids, like you said, are not going to be low stakes.
No, they're not. And I'll tell you, that puts a ton of pressure on the Steinbrenners to, if they don't re-sign Judge, you're going to have that entire New York media after you. You're going to have the entire fan base after you. And they're all going to put the quote in your face, we will not be outbid. And it's a scary position if I was the ownership there with the Yankees, but they have a lot of money there. And if they want a player, they have more than enough resources to go out and do it. But they may have put an unnecessary target on their back by saying that one for sure.
Yeah, it makes the fan base optimistic until you sit back and think about it and you go, wait a minute. Now there might have been some wiggle room before. Now there's none. You got to come in with the highest bid. Like you said, though, Judge is unlikely to turn down the highest bid. It's now a matter of how high that bid is and where it comes from. So we'll continue playing along. Were you surprised to see Rizzo come back so quickly, though, and really dedicate himself to the New York Yankees, even when people were suspecting that there might be this reset and exodus if Judge leaves?
Yeah, I don't think I was necessarily surprised by it, because there was rumblings even the night beforehand that it was possible that he would sign pretty quickly. I just didn't know where that would end up coming because obviously the Yankees were very interested, but so were the Astros. Like the Astros they really liked Anthony Rizzo. And I still think it is completely fascinating to me that the Astros are like one signing Rafael Montero and then also pursuing Anthony Rizzo without having a GM. Like I know they got one of their point people or one of their assistant GMs like as their point person right now, but not having a set GM during free agency and during all this stuff is a really odd setup that they have there. But I think I'm not surprised by Rizzo returning at all because I think that was by far the Yankees' number one option for first base. But now the Astros, they got to turn their attention now. They got Yuli Gurriel, who's a free agent, an in-house free agent. You can pursue Jose Abreu. And then they were pretty heavily linked to Josh Bell at the trade deadline. That ultimately did not happen, of course, but I wonder if they could rekindle that interest there. So they got options, but I think they would have liked Rizzo there for sure.
Yeah, Jim Crane putting on his GM hat, getting the job done. If it's not Rizzo, it's going to be Gurriel. If it's not Gurriel, it's going to be Josh Bell. We'll see.
Well, boy, you remind me of what the heck is that? Is that coach for LSU, Brian Kelly, with that accent?
Oh, yeah.
That was good stuff. I like it.
Well, the difference is that's my real accent, and right now I'm doing a character. This isn't my real voice.
Actually, I've always wondered. I don't know. When we met up in Orlando, I was like, this guy's probably got like a Southern accent in there. And
it is. Oh, you better believe it. It's all about family to me. I did the Jim Crane voice on the other live podcast, and we lost viewers immediately. So good to this crowd's better. We've got the viewers stayed. Thank you guys. Thanks for maintaining the viewership. I will never do that again.
No, I will say if you subscribe right now, Adam will never do that again. So.
Which is like a big ask because we have another Jim Crane section coming up later in the podcast rundown. So truly, you don't know how tempting it's going to be for me to do it again, but I promise you I won't.
You know, I may have broken a promise and it'll only take like 20 minutes. So that's not good. But we appreciate
under. Yeah, take the under. Take the under.
Yeah, BetMGM. Oh, there we go. BetMGM has you doing the accent at -300 right now. So
yeah. Well, so then same game parlay it with Bert giving us some great insight on the Teoscar Hernández trade. And what do you know? Here's that coming up immediately. Wow. Probably the number one most asked thing in the comments. Everybody wants to know what the Blue Jays are doing here, whether the Jays have another move in their pocket. Rocky Adams dropped that one. Jake Coggon 85 saying, are you thinking they're more likely to trade for an outfielder and sign a pitcher, or the other way around? Rob S. wondering if it's Nimmo, if it's Yoshida, who's about to get posted, the Japanese left fielder, who a lot of people have a lot of interest in, and I'm sure the market's going to be pretty big there. Nobody knows, but the one thing we do know about Teoscar Hernández suddenly being traded to Seattle before his final year of arbitration, his final year of control, for a fairly light return. I don't know if you were as surprised by the return as I was. People were saying maybe Hernández for Chris Flexen. Then it becomes Hernández for a controllable reliever Eric Swanson and a top 10 prospect, but not a top 5 prospect for 1 year of Hernández. The one thing I think we do know, that return seems light, but that is not the end of the road. The trade tree lives on. Toronto's not rolling into the regular season with this current outfield. So did this make sense to you from both sides? And then, of course, like everyone's asking, what comes next?
It didn't surprise me that they moved Teoscar Hernández. I think if there was ever a big name player that the Blue Jays were going to move, it was going to be him. And he's entering the final year of his contract and may not have been confident that they were going to be able to extend him. And I think that trade kind of confirmed that. So they wanted to recoup some value and try to get the most that they could in a trade. And ultimately the Mariners offered that because they sought a big bat for the outfield because we've talked about it on the show before. Is like they absolutely needed another bat. And Eric Swanson is a very, very, very highly thought of reliever. Like some scouts consider him a potential like high leverage, like late inning kind of arm in the bullpen. And his baseball savant page, I don't know if you've looked at it before, Adam, but oh boy, yeah, I'll tell you that's the good stuff. And the prospect that they got too, they really like. I believe it's his curveball. I might be misremembering that, but he's got command issues. And this trade from the Mariners' perspective made all the sense in the world because they've been very good at developing relievers. And Swanson was one of those guys. And they had a surplus of those guys, and they thought they could do it. They got a bat in return. And now from the Blue Jays, I would firmly expect them to target a left-handed bat for the outfield. And that can be Brandon Nimmo. That could be a guy like maybe Cody Bellinger. If he's non-tendered, I think there's a lot of teams who are watching what the Dodgers do with Bellinger. Because, I mean, obviously he struggled the last couple of years, but he's an MVP guy. Like, he's formerly won the MVP. And like those kind of guys don't become available that quickly after their MVP seasons, like very often. So I think he would be an option. There's been a lot of buzz about the St. Louis Cardinals potentially being a fit because they have Lars Nootbaar, which one of the best names at baseball to me by far. Great job, Lars Nootbaar, and then Dylan Carlson. Like this one to me, I don't know how likely it is, just because if they weren't willing to part with him in a Juan Soto trade, I don't know how willing they'd be to move him now. But that being said, the Blue Jays possess a catching surplus, and the Cardinals just so happen to need a catcher. So maybe there's a fit there for an outfielder for a catcher. So that's something to perhaps watch there. And to answer Zach World's question, the non-tender deadline is mañana. So look forward to tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of action. I've already stocked up on cold brew, so let's get it, baby.
How early does that begin for you?
I mean, actually, so it's not like that early of a day, but it's like I'll get my workout in earlier than usual, and then I'll just be on my phone basically the entire day and making calls and trying to figure out what's going to happen. But there could be some pretty notable names that we could see. Maybe either non-tendered or moved tomorrow too. So she'll be interesting.
Let's talk that before we move on to the Mariners' impact with Hernández, because I do think that's pretty relevant, and I think we're going to see a good amount of names. A lot of players making between $5 and $8 million next season, who some teams that are maybe marginal contenders at best don't feel like paying the price. You're already seeing some of these names bandied about in trade conversations. There's a reason that Colton Wong is floating around in rumors today. There's a reason that, I'm seeing Keston Ura as a possible non-tender candidate. And of course, the big fish, Cody Bellinger of the Los Angeles Dodgers, who every time Andrew Friedman talks about him, says he loves him. Like you said, you don't give up on an MVP, but most MVPs don't do what Cody Bellinger has done since 2019. He subtracted 1 WAR from the Los Angeles Dodgers in 2021, 2 years after hitting 47 home runs and taking home the MVP award. So stunning downfall for Bellinger, but the Dodgers are understandably skittish. Bellinger is the headline name. So I'll start there just to say, before you empty the notebook a little bit, if you had to make a guess, Dodgers keep Bellinger, Dodgers let him go, what do you think is going to happen there?
My guess, and this is a total guess, I just want to make that abundantly clear. My guess is the Dodgers keep Bellinger. I think he's too valuable, and if he leaves, and goes berserk elsewhere, that's going to look really bad for the Dodgers. Maybe it's possible that they find a trade partner, because I think there's going to be more than enough teams that are interested and maybe could give something up of value. So I would never rule that out, but I think the Dodgers keep Bellinger. That's just my gut feel going into tomorrow, but I mean, that's always subject to change for sure.
It's my gut feel too. I think Friedman was a little bit too positive about him last week. So again, we'll see. But the problem is that escalating salary, the Dodgers are basically the only team that might not non-tender Cody Bellinger because they can absorb it. So if you're the Dodgers and you do have money in your coffers, you don't want to let a former MVP, a recent former MVP, we're not talking about the 2011 race, go for nothing. Now, what about some of the surprise names or the commonly discussed names who you feel are at genuine risk of being non-tendered tomorrow? Who are the bigger names that you would say have a shot to just get snipped off the roster if they're not traded?
I'll answer your question in a bit of a different way. I think
a riddle.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. I wish I was smart enough to come up with a riddle off the top of my head, but I'm not that skilled. But we mentioned the Brewers before, and I think a guy like Hunter Renfroe makes a whole lot of sense as a trade candidate. I can't see the Brewers just outright letting him go because like I know he's making or projected to make about 11 million this year. But he was still a really valuable player for them, and letting him go would be releasing one of their more consistent bats. But I think a trade there is certainly possible, just so they can free up some room and try to do some different kind of maneuvers on that roster. So I think that would be a name to watch. You mentioned Keston Hiura before. I don't see him being non-tendered. I think maybe a trade is possible as like a change of scenery kind of guy. Just again, that's my thoughts, not basing it off any reporting. I don't want that getting aggregated somewhere.
No.
Just a casual thought. But I think that those two are probably like more closely ones that I'm going to be following for sure.
Yeah, I wonder about, and I think my thoughts on this probably changed during the postseason, but sometime around August, I was like, I hope the Yankees keep Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. I think he's a nice utility guy. I think if he's taken off the starting shortstop role, he could still prosper here. Then he has a postseason that only further, it's incendiary. The defense is off. He doesn't look comfortable. The fans are turning on him. And he's owed, I believe, $6.5 million this year. So if the Yankees don't plan to start him at shortstop, do they really want to pay that $6.5 million for, I don't know, a backup, a lesser DJ LeMahieu? I mean, that's a name that comes to mind for me. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I think that absolutely makes a ton of sense. And like, I know he struggled last year in New York. Like, defense was supposed to be his number one calling card, and he really struggled there, especially with the errors like that. I mean, they brought him in for primarily defense, and they thought his bat had some upside, but he just never lived up to that. So I certainly think that's a possibility for sure.
Yeah. Zach World, our man, is it out of the realm of possibility Bellinger does get non-tendered? Absolutely not. I mean, I think it's again, both of us sort of just like coin flipped over to the Dodgers keeping him, but very, very possible he gets non-tendered tomorrow, even for a team like the Dodgers with all that money to go around. Before I move on, we're getting a few Red Sox questions. A couple questions about Xander Bogaerts and that offer being sweetened. I think it's sort of unclear based on Red Sox ownership when the offer was sweetened and how sweet it became. But any Red Sox rumblings at all? I know Nathan Eovaldi got their qualifying offer. There were talks of a multi-year deal there that never materialized, and now is even less likely considering he comes with that additional little draft pick compensation attached, and that exclusive negotiating window is over. Are you hearing anything out of Boston? Because obviously most of the Red Sox questions, it's tough because they have a lot of money to go around, but everything begins and ends with you extending Devers, you extending Bogaerts. And until they answer those questions, I don't know what other moves they have that are really going to impress fans. But there's a ton of money.
There is a ton of money. And the fact that they've already upped their offer to Bogaerts, and as you said, we don't know when specifically that was because the ownership didn't make that clear. And the fact that the Red Sox have publicly stated that Bogaerts is like their top priority by a lot, to me, that would indicate that there is a likelihood of a deal being reached. I don't know if we're anywhere closer to what it was maybe like a week ago. So it's probably going to drag out some more. So just bear with me. That's you're gonna have to remain patient in Boston here. But my guess is that he returns. But the fact that the Phillies are interested, Dave Dombrowski was the one who ended up doing his first deal there in Boston, and clearly likes the player. That would have me a little bit worried because the Phillies they have money to spend. That has been made very clear to me this offseason. So can't rule anything out there, but to me right now, I would say the Red Sox are the favorites for Bogaerts, and then the field is second here for sure.
Tough ass asking the Boston fans to remain patient. Just sitting in front of their computers going like, oh yeah, oh of course. Yeah, no doubt. I'll definitely remain patient. Yeah, thanks for the advice, kid. We'll see. We'll see what we'll see if they have another couple of months left in them. The lockout maybe took that edge off the Boston fan base a little bit. Who knows? But Xander Bogaerts, the Red Sox are still the favorites, but we shall see. I'll swing us back to the Mariners now, because I do want to complete the Teoscar Hernández collection conversation. The Mariners are going out and doing smart things. Again, unshockingly, they see an opportunity to get Hernández. They go ahead and grab him. Like, that's you talk about what the Blue Jays are doing. Let's get more left-handed. Let's, clear space. We want to do a multi-year deal with somebody else. The Mariners say there's a power hitting all-star available. Okay, we're going to trade a reliever. We're going to trade a reliever for him. We're just going to go grab him. And he'll be there for at least 2023. But have you heard anything about these two sides talking extension or any indication that that would be possible?
On Hernández?
Yes.
So I have not heard that, but I will say this. So Luis Castillo, who was traded to the Mariners last year, he quickly did an extension. It was I would say a month or so after being traded. He is represented by Rafa Nieves, and Teoscar Hernández just so happens to have the same agent. So he's got a history of doing deals with the Mariners. Not saying that means a deal is going to happen, but they have a history of doing business together. So, I mean, you can't rule anything out here.
I won't rule it out yet.
Active now. I don't think that's the case.
Okay. And in terms of Seattle's next target, I think we're seeing a lot of middle infield being the rumor here. JP Crawford is the shortstop. For how long? I'm not positive. What about second base? Is that the logical next step? Have you heard anything more clarified about the Mariners' continued needs?
Yeah, JP Morosi reported it earlier, but Colton Wong is a really good fit there. And I know the Brewers just picked up Wong's option, but he is certainly still on the table as a trade candidate. That would not surprise me at all if he was moved. And the Mariners make a whole lot of sense. So I think that would be one fit, but certainly second base is going to be a priority for them. I think that is most likely their next order of business.
Gleyber Torres is available. Seattle Mariners, do you hear me? Gleyber Torres is available. Is this thing on? All right, just checking. Seattle, we'll see what materializes there. Again, non-tender deadline is tomorrow. So if you're waiting for action, or if you're one of those impatient Boston fans we briefly heard from earlier, there will certainly be something on your docket tomorrow. Toronto fans, Cubs fans, Dodger fans, everybody in the comments asking about their team's next move. You will be satisfied in some capacity. Maybe you're not going to get what you want, but you'll get something tomorrow.
Yep. And I also, one thing there's something I saw in the comments here, and it was a really good question here from Bryan. It was apparently Ron Washington has been working with Vaughn Grissom to help him at shortstop. What does that mean for Dansby Swanson's free agency? Mm-hmm. That is one that caught my attention when I saw that story in The Athletic yesterday. So Alex Anthopoulos has also been hyping up Orlando Arcia and Vaughn Grissom as their internal options at shortstop, and said that they're comfortable having those guys at short. But to me, in the Braves' most ideal world, they would have Dansby Swanson back. This is just a public stance by them. It's a leverage tactic, is what it is. And obviously, Vaughn Grissom is a very talented guy. Don't get me wrong, but Dansby Swanson is easily their best shortstop option. This is just negotiations playing out. So I would not take this as any sign whatsoever that Swanson's gone. This is just negotiations playing out. There's going to be peaks and valleys, hopefully for the Braves' sake, not as many as the Freddie Freeman negotiations last year, but they have internal options and they're comfortable with those options, at least is what they're saying publicly. Yeah.
And they have a second hometown kid in as many off seasons hitting the market at an important time. And they want everybody to know that Vaughn Grissom is also a hometown kid and he's also ready. So we'll see where things land. The shortstop market, a long way from completion. Stressing patience in the Bogaerts chase. We'll stress patience there too. Correa, Trey Turner. It'll be quite a while. The non-tender deadline will not have anything to do with those folks. But be careful when you talk about deals, if you are in the front office of teams that may be competing for these high-profile free agents. According to Ken Rosenthal's report last night, the Mets and Yankees are both being looked at for their comments in the Aaron Judge chase. Andy Martino of SNY put out a piece a couple of weeks ago, essentially saying that Steve Cohen and Hal Steinbrenner have a good relationship. The Mets probably aren't going to try to ruin that relationship by pursuing Aaron Judge. Now MLB is trying to decide if that is improper conduct or if that's just friends being nice. Obviously, they have to eventually figure out when Judge does sign a deal, whether that deal was impacted by this conversation or not. Tough thing to prove, but it's on MLB's radar. Jim Crane's comments on Justin Verlander also on MLB's radar for potentially limiting his market. And those might have been more inflammatory because Jim Crane said, no, I won't do it. He said that Verlander is looking for Max Scherzer type money, 3 years, $130 million, and that he's not prepared to pay something like that, and best of luck. Now, maybe he was just being nice. Maybe he was saying, hey, Justin's got demands, and I don't think it's in the cards for us, but go forth. Or maybe he was trying to scare some other teams off, saying, here's a very large contract number. That's what Justin told me he wants. So have at it. And then Verlander comes back to him and says, no one wants to talk to me. I think you freaked him out. What do you make of this? I feel like the Yankees and Mets stuff is relatively innocent, although the fewer handshake deals between billionaire owners we have, the better. But the Verlander stuff, you could maybe, depending on what deal he gets, you could tangibly prove that that had an effect on negotiations.
Yeah, I'll start with the Yankees and the Mets one. Because when that stuff was reported, I had people text me saying with these links, and it's like, huh? Like, there's got to be more to this. And I'm not surprised that MLB is investigating it. I don't know if they could penalize each side just because it's like nobody's spoken publicly about it, just anonymous sources on this one. So I'm guessing they're probably not going to find anything or like punish each team. That's just kind of just a guess there. But the Astros one and Jim Crane, that to me feels much more significant. And in the CBA, like there's specifically guidelines on things that teams can and cannot say. And shortly after they end up coming to that CBA agreement, Jim Crane goes out and says exactly what he's not supposed to say. And that is that's a bad look. That's that can't happen. And I think there could absolutely be some penalties there. And it's just the latest PR nightmare for the Astros right now. And like the sign stealing stuff to me, like that over and done with. I've moved on from that. But
yeah,
the James Click firing and then now this after winning the World Series, not good. That's not to quote George Girardi, that's not what you want.
It's so annoying they won the World Series, though. We could just be talking Astros in turmoil, like GM fired, new owner pretending to be GM, like going to war with star ace, maybe going to get Doc draft picks for blabbing about his contract asks, but you have to put the asterisk in. But instead of being cheated to win a World Series, the asterisk is just legitimately won World Series, and it's hard to say anything bad about them. Very annoying. But yeah, Jim Crane, GM, so far is the Rafael Montero overpay and reading the CBA and saying, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do the Verlander stuff. And immediately saying, yeah, Justin's ask is insane. I promised you all 20 minutes. There it is. But that's it. We're never doing it again.
I apologize on behalf of the baseball insiders for Adam's accent reveal again.
You're going to have to say that like at least once a week. I feel so bad for you. Like it's a fun show. I'm having fun, but like I am going to do accents, sadly.
I'll have to do my best Michael Scott and put on a brave face right now. Oh boy.
No, that's it. It's a baseball.
No, but I'm here for it. No, I support Adam and whatever he wants to do. It's good stuff. It's good content.
It's solid content. I support you, of course, in whatever you want to do. We're going to play a little game before we leave, just combing through to make sure that we've got all these questions. It's actually been a while since we've talked Bryan Reynolds trade. We do have a Pirates fan in here, AJ Bucks, asking if the Pirates trade Bryan Reynolds, any chance. I feel like Reynolds, from my end, is destined to be the name thrown into every trade season. But I don't know if it's going to happen because it'll take a haul to get him. Do you think that this winter is the time that he's moved, or do we move on to the summer trade deadline again with Bryan Reynolds still in Pittsburgh?
I don't think it's impossible, but I also don't think it's likely at all. And I'd actually even put it in the highly, highly, highly unlikely category. Certainly there could be a trade at some point because that contract is it is going to be the richest deal in Pirates history. Because their current most expensive contract that they've done is Ke'Bryan Hayes is 8 years for $72 million, which that's a wow to me. But yeah, I think Reynolds is going to start the year with the Pirates. There's probably going to be trade rumors at some point, probably during the season. It wouldn't even surprise me if there's trade rumors during the offseason because teams are surely checking in on him. And I still think to this day that the New York Yankees are a great fit for Bryan Reynolds. That is a team that I think could absolutely use him. They have the prospects if they wanted to go get him. But also another team, the San Diego Padres, they make a whole lot of they like Bryan Reynolds. I don't think that's any secret at this point. But I'd be pretty surprised if Reynolds started the season in a place other than Pittsburgh.
And AJ Preller loves dealing with the Pirates too. Adam Frazier, thank you very much. Maybe Bryan Reynolds is the amped up version of that package. Let's play a short game of contract would you rather. This time, I'm mostly going to be talking about deals that have not been consummated yet. Deals that went down this week versus rumored deals yet to come. And a few of these are going to end up answering some of the remaining questions in the chat. So again, stay tuned if you haven't heard your question answered yet. Some of the discussion here is probably going to be applicable to you. And also, make sure you do like and subscribe to the channel, because if we don't get to it today, we're going to get to it next week. There is a whole offseason remaining. So my first question here, the Tyler Anderson deal. 3 years, $39 million. Both of us agreed earlier in the show it's a little less than we thought. He is 33 years old. Would you rather have Tyler Anderson at that money or have Jose Quintana at the deal he is about to receive from some other very worthy team in the next several weeks? The pitching market is a little bit strange, but I do feel like those arms are a little bit comparable at this point. Who would you rather sign?
That's a great question. I would probably go with Quintana, honestly. And I think that's going to end up being a pretty similar deal to Anderson. I could see that being like a 3-year for like $36-37 million in that range. The reason why is I think Quintana is just a really consistent pitcher, and we still don't know what Anderson is quite yet. He obviously had a really good year this year, but he does not have a long sustained period of success. And Quintana, I can tell you, Pirates absolutely loved him in that locker room. The Cardinals absolutely loved him in that locker room. And they really valued the stability that he brought. And I think that's going to end up being a good move when that's eventually done. That being said, Anderson has more upside, and you can never go wrong with upside, but I like, in terms of that kind of a signing, I'd probably go with a guy like Quintana because I know what I'm going to get.
Does Jameson Taillon's deal change this conversation, or you still go Anderson or Quintana over Taillon?
I go with Taillon numero uno.
Interesting.
Yep. I'm a big Jameson Taillon guy. I like him.
Very interesting. I like him too. Now, moving on, Anthony Rizzo's deal, signed, sealed, delivered, 2 years, $40 million guaranteed. Like we said, the Astros were in. They did not close the deal. Who knows if they got outbid? Who knows if he just wanted to be a Yankee? But now the first base options for the Astros are dwindling a little bit, but a rumored big bopper that we've seen is Jose Abreu. So if you were making the decision, would you rather have the Anthony Rizzo deal already signed, sealed, delivered, or Jose Abreu's next contract?
I'd probably go with Jose Abreu, honestly. And I think Abreu is going to get slightly more than Rizzo on a short-term contract, maybe like 2 or 3 years, probably 2 is my guess. And he had a really weird year this year. His numbers were sound all around, but his power numbers were just way deflated than usual. And I have confidence that he's going to bounce back. So I would take Jose Abreu in this situation.
I think I would too. And but yeah, whoever gets him getting a good one, the Astros offseason. Yeah, the Astros offseason will march on.
So you agree with the second one, but you never said you agree with the first one. So you disagree with me on the first one. You absolute jerk.
I think I might take short-term Quintana over Taillon, and I think I take Tyler Anderson over both of them. I don't know.
Fair. I mean, that was a tough one. I'll give you that. Like, I think you could make the argument for either side on that one. So I can definitely see that. But the fact you didn't agree with me, that hurts.
I know, and we will. I hope we'll get over it, but I'm happy to do whatever it takes to help us get past it. The comment section's furious at us. By the way, nobody agrees with that.
I've upset Adam on that one, so my apologies.
Yeah,
Adam.
embrace debate. The comment section is mad. One final, and this is where we get into the Verlander deal. Let's say that Verlander really does. He's firm. He wants this 3-year, $130 million deal that takes him through the age of 42. Would you rather sign unanimous American League Cy Young Justin Verlander to that contract today, or have only the final 2 years of Max Scherzer's contract, which is the exact same money? So 2 years of Scherzer or 3 years of Verlander at the same price starting today.
That's a tough one. And also shout out to Alex real quick, my guy. That's a really tough one. Boy, you're bringing the heat right now.
I did it.
I will say this: if Verlander wasn't coming off of that second Tommy John from a couple years ago, I know he pitched this year. He was very, very, very good. I'd probably go Verlander here. Boy, this is tough because Scherzer was hurt this year too. I'll say give me 2 more years of Max Scherzer, and I'm already questioning that decision. But that's a very good hypothetical. What would you do in this case, Adam?
I think I would do the same thing. Scherzer's a little bit younger. I mean, they're both aging like fine wine. It's really hard to, on it, like feet to the fire. I'm not going to turn down having either of those people on my team. 3 years for Verlander is probably like, I mean, I'd say 100% no to 4. I think I'm 60-40 no on 3. It's very tight, but I'll take the younger Scherzer, I think, even though Alex is now mad at us too. Nobody likes us at this juncture. Sorry. This is a segment designed to make the comment section furious, sadly.
And you mission accomplished. So good job, Adam, because Adam was the one who came up with those. So that's good work by him. And look at he looks like Dr. Evil over there. If he ended up doing that with his pinky, then he'd be all.
I'll do 2. I'll do double pinkies out. Abreu over Rizzo, man, it's close. I don't know. The comment section furious. This is what we do. We ignite debate. Robert and I are next generation Skip Bayless. We're both Skip Bayless. It's like if there was a show where it was just 2 Skip Baylesses going back and forth with each other. That's pretty much what this show is.
Yeah, this is like First Take. What is it now? I don't even know what it is. First Take. What's the one that Skip is on now?
Oh, First Things First.
Is that what it is? Oh,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to strive to be not that.
No, we're going to strive to be imminently more watchable. In a 50-minute show, we talk as much baseball as First Things First talks in an entire year's worth of episodes. Yeah. So that's what we strive to bring you. If you want to hear more about how LeBron and Russell Westbrook bought dueling mansions across the street from each other, you turn on Skip. If you want to hear baseball offseason talk all offseason long, 3:30 Eastern time, Mondays and Thursdays, and with a special schedule upcoming for the winter meetings, because if you love the baseball offseason, you love the winter meetings. We're going to make sure to be there for you every step of the way. Robert will, of course, be on site, and I'll be here pulling him up on the old YouTube box every chance I get. Bert, thanks for another great show, and I can't wait for some more fuel to the fire tomorrow. Nobody wants to see people get non-tendered, lose their jobs, but it will spark the hot stove. So it's a little bit exciting.
Oh, yeah, the stove is going to be completely stoked, and I cannot wait. And we will have much more throughout the offseason. As Adam said, at the winter meetings, we'll be live there each day. I don't know. Maybe I just broke that without I may have no. Okay, I had the green light to report that.
No, we're good.
But yeah, if you can subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. Because why would you not? To be honest,
why would you not?
Exactly. So no, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. Adam, you're the man. Appreciate you.
Bert, you're the man. Tomorrow the stove will be stoked. Who stoked the stove? Stoke that stove. The stove will be stoked. Can't wait. Can't wait to talk more about what actually goes down tomorrow. Next week, I will do 300% fewer voices on Monday's episode, but we can't wait to break it down for you. Until next time, everybody, like the channel, subscribe. You'll find us the same time twice a week right here, but again, during the winter meetings free for all. It's anybody's game. The scoops are floating, and Bert's going to bring them to you, and I'm going to facilitate them, hopefully. Thanks again, my man. This was great.
Thank you. Let's do it again on Monday.
Hey, how about it? Pretty good idea. We'll see y'all on Monday.
See you, everybody.